Mike Sweeney's passing was a huge loss to the journalism school at Ohio University. And I'm saying that because he was an extraordinary faculty member. He was good in every phase of what you would want a faculty member to be good at. He did a lot of service, both for the school and the American Journalism Historians Association, which both of those were heavily involved in. He was an excellent teacher who was beloved by his students, and he was an extraordinary researcher as a historian. I guess I knew that he was going to be like that as long ago as almost 30 years ago. I was running the graduate program. He came to Ohio as a doctoral student after I recruited him very heavily and took him out of the jaws of 2 other schools. And he came and I chaired his dissertation. His dissertation was the longest I've ever seen. It was over 700 pages long. The Office of Censorship, it was the first academic study ever done on the Office of Censorship in World War II. And it was no surprise to me, since it was so well done, that it later was published as a book by an academic press. Well, he went to Utah State. He stayed there 13 years. He came back to this school in 2009 to join the faculty. And during the whole time, he became an extraordinary researcher. He did a long series of books for National Geographic on everything from the history of war correspondence in the United States to the discovery of the Titanic and other subjects. And so he comes back to the school. He's a big-time researcher. And in a 10-year period from when he came back, he and I started doing research together. We had never done that before, but we were a good team together because we were very similar in many types of things. We both had worked for a number of years on newspapers. As a result, we wrote very much alike. We used the same kind of words. We wrote short sentences that were usually no longer than 3 lines long. We wrote in an interesting fashion. We both were very much cognizant of keeping the reader turning the page, something both of us had heard in newspapers. So we joined together, and we ended up doing 4 research papers that were given at the American Journalism Historians Association. 3 of those won prizes from the association. One of them was published as a book chapter. And perhaps the most notable thing we did a journalism monograph on the government and the Chicago Tribune's coverage of the Battle of Midway in World War II. This won a prize from the History Division of AJMC. Doing research with him was very interesting because of the way we joined together. Since we were both storytellers, we told the stories in that kind of fashion, in basically a chronological fashion. And I basically would write the story, and then I would hand it over to him, and will have done some research. He'd add in some more to the story. He then would add a part that was on theory, which I didn't touch because he was an expert on theory. He would write the conclusion to the piece, which I'd join in occasionally. Then he'd hand it back to me, and I'd go over everything we had, and I would write the introduction to the piece and the headline for it. So we did this in every single paper we did, plus the monograph, and it just worked so extraordinarily well, and he was so nice to work with. One of the things about Mike, not only that he was incredibly smart and had an incredible grasp of the English language, but Mike was fast. And everybody that had anything to do with him realized this. He met deadlines. If he had a deadline, he met that deadline, usually before the deadline. And he would do an incredibly good job, even though it was done very, very quickly. So he was very nice to work with. I enjoyed working with him. And, if I look back at his whole career and everything, it's just such a loss that he's gone. not only because I can't do research with him again, and we would have probably done some more research together, just because of how much of a great faculty member he was. Great in every way. He just exceeded, and he made it look so very easy. I don't think it was, I'm not saying it was easy, but he made it look easy. And so he's a huge loss. I'm going to miss him. I know the School of Journalism's going to miss him. And it's just too bad that he couldn't live longer to accomplish more, because this was a person that could leave an incredible dent in the history of journalism schools in the United States.